Carnies are associated with Romani folks in a display of racism. The ethnic slur gypsy is used to describe the Romani people as a metaphor for the Carnies being a bunch of lying swindlers, as is of course a nod to the Romani and the Wolfman. Bornholt didn't seem to get much out of that much praised scene in Season 1, Episode 7, Angel, where Angel indicates that Romani is the proper name and that Buffy's ignorant for not knowing it. And then we have a very interesting turn of phrase that adds another layer to the potential origin of the term Master Vampire. Buffy fanfics all over the internet conceptualize vampires as either masters or minions, whole separate vampire races. It's very common to read about how Angelus is a master vampire, giving him the power to lead minions, while the minions are minion vampires and can't. This is never mentioned in the show, except for the one vampire ruler called the Master. In Halloween Reign, I thought I found the origin of the confusion, as the Master is referenced as the Master Vampire, in the same way that we would say the Giles Librarian, using a name to reference the specific character of a type that we mean. Coyote Moon has what appears to be the next link in the chain, as Buffy muses that probably a Master Vampire, small m, couldn't stop Xander from meeting Rose for the kiss. I'm guessing Bornholt read Halloween Reign and misunderstood what the Master Vampire meant, and then some fan read Coyote Moon and included Master Vampire with small m in a fanfic, and it took off from there. For now at least, mystery solved. Buffy feels something off about the Carnies and starts poking around. She finds a dog collar in the trash and identifies it as from a neighbor's dog that was taken by coyotes. See, we don't even have pet corpses. The grizzled old carny named Hopscotch confronts her, and she recognizes his eyes from the coyote. She doesn't get cramps for some reason. Guess that was a one-shot power. I don't know. At least the book had it. She puts on a dumb kid guise and manages to talk her way out of trouble, cleverly drawing from stuff that Willow said earlier. She goes out in search of the coyotes and finds them trying to eat a cat. She immediately becomes enraged and decides that she has to save the kitty. Blake Snyder would be proud. As she approaches, the coyotes stop and then run toward the moon. She pauses to comfort the cat and watch it run home. Good thing she doesn't see it hunt a mouse, or she'd punch it in the face. Buffy follows the coyotes to a graveyard, where they perform a strange ritual with graveyard dust, which is pretty true to the Skinwalker folklore. The coyotes notice her, and Buffy and Hopscotch recognize each other. A really fun fight scene follows, with Buffy throwing coyotes through the air. But like with the cat, they overwhelm her, and she runs away through the mausoleum, leading to the vampire-infested sewers. Both vampires and skinwalkers are wary of each other, so the combined scent allows Buffy to run through monster-free tunnels, and out the exit that she and Xander discovered in Season 1, Episode 2, The Harvest. I love the episode reference and the world building about different kinds of monsters interacting. Very similar to the werewolf and vampire interaction in Season 2, Episode 15, Phases. At this point, Buffy goes to Giles for info on were-coyotes, and he makes the connection to skinwalkers. The description he gives is pretty true to the folklore, except that he says that skinwalkers live in groups apart from society, as can be applied to a traveling carnival, while skinwalkers are traditionally described as malicious members of Navajo society, hiding in plain sight. They have power out there, but they live in here. They represent a terrifying internal evil where you don't know who to trust within your own community. And as there is no Navajo community depicted, the skinwalkers are relegated to an external threat to a white community. They represent fear of the other, as is derivative of Wolfman's racism, and thereby represent an especially problematic form of cultural appropriation. Buffy and Giles investigate the grave that the skinwalkers desecrated and find police there. Buffy suggests that coyotes did it, and the cops are so grateful that they answer her questions about who the grave belonged to. He's a famous cowboy showman named Spurs Hardaway, who died exactly 100 years ago. Spurs was the Wild West equivalent of Siegfried and Roy, putting on a magic act with bison and other animals associated with the Wild West. His big act? Transforming himself into an animal and back, a trick that he claimed to have learned from Native Americans. Buffy finally remembers that she left Willow and Xander with the creepy carnies, and runs back. Lonnie has been scaring Willow with his sexual assertiveness, shades of Thomas from Season 1, Episode 1, Welcome to the Hellmouth, but she still agrees to meet him tomorrow at midnight. Rose has both been scaring and arousing Xander with her aggressive kinkiness, wanting to brand him with a tattoo, and he also agrees to meet her tomorrow at midnight. And then Buffy comes into Rose's trailer like a sheriff in a western to bring order to the lawless saloon. We know this because Xander says so.
Oh, I can't wear these. They look ridiculous. You look like a cowboy, huh? I don't want to be a cowboy.
She and Rose fight, Rose acting animalistically and trying to bite Buffy's throat out. Xander is too turned on to think straight, honestly not out of character for him. Unfortunately, he rehashes a bit of his stupidity from Season 1, Episode 4, Teacher's Pet, and assumes that Buffy is jealous of Rose and pushes her away. Dude, your friend is a slayer. Listen to her when she says something supernatural is afoot. Just to pat things out, Buffy starts doubting that the Carnies are skinwalkers, even though one just tried to bite her like a coyote. So she lets Rose and Xander go and leaves to talk to Giles, who meanwhile has been researching Spurs Hardaway. Apparently he was one of the founders of Sunnydale, which is a great piece of world building in the days before Season 3, and also fits in with the mythology that was later established. Like you could imagine that Richard Wilkins was the main founder, but there was also Spurs Hardaway. Spurs spent a time living among Native Americans, and Giles suggests that that's when he learned Skinwalker magic. He presumably taught it to his troop, died, and then his troop turned into the Carnies, using Skinwalker magic to resist aging, a power that Skinwalkers don't have in actual folklore, because when a Skinwalker dies, he turns into a ghost. And there's plenty of Navajo ghost stories too. Presumably, the Carnies will do a ritual with the Coyote Moon to resurrect their old boss. Kind of a rehashed version of the Harvest, seeking to release the Master. Before Buffy and Giles take action, they need proof, so they plan to go to the carnival the next day to look for the coyote skins that the Skinwalkers used to make their transformations. When they arrive, the carnival is just opening, and it's like cowboys walking into a ghost town, or so the book tells us. Buffy breaks into Rose's trailer while Giles stands watch. She finds the pelt just as Giles signals that they're coming and runs, but the Skinwalkers mob her before she can get out. They tie her up and gag her with duct tape, and Buffy is unable to get the leverage to break free from the bonds, but she confirms that she has a super strong mouth and tongue by using them to force the gag off. Something to keep in mind for fanfic. Hopscotch threatens to cut out her tongue if she doesn't cooperate. A really chilling moment. Nevertheless, Buffy bluffs that she's a witch, of the classic European variety, says that she owns Sunnydale, and plays off her antagonism toward the Skinwalkers as just territorial villainy, which Hopscotch totally buys. He proceeds to tell her their evil plans to sacrifice Willow and Xander to resurrect Spurs Hardaway, the fastest Skinwalker in the West. Buffy realizes that supervillain monologuing is so stupid that Hopscotch doesn't actually want his people to win. He admits that he's the one who killed Spurs, and he knows that Spurs will want payback. He wants Buffy, the Sunnydale witch, to defeat Spurs so that he can escape the life that he's trapped in by becoming a coyote and remaining an animal, which he considers to be more interesting than living as a human. Hopscotch releases her. He warns her that Spurs could transform into a grizzly bear, and was buried in his pelt, meaning that Buffy will have to fight a bear. He then transforms into a coyote and runs off. The transformation sequence fits the folklore well enough, but without the important context of it being a perversion of goodly Navajo spirituality. It's really like being presented with the upside-down satanic cross, without any understanding of Christianity being presented. Oh, and Buffy makes the kinky suggestion that she might want a Skinwalker boyfriend, because he would also be her pet. Someone write a fanfic about this! The book is padded out with scenes where Willow and Xander mess around at the carnival. Xander makes an appreciative comment about Carnies as people who work for the sake of people's pleasure. Given the general kinky atmosphere, it sounds to me like an allusion to sex work. If so, it's an unnuanced take, but better than the conservative show using sex work as an insult.
You know, hey, I don't know what everyone's talking about. That outfit doesn't make you look like a hooker.
This is followed by Xander asking Willow where he should let Rose tattoo him, and she practically suggests on his penis before saying on his foot. Kinky Coyote Moon, everyone! Lonnie and Rose take them out to a party that they're throwing in the cemetery, where the Carnies demonstrate a dance of their people, the resurrection ritual. Again, pretty accurate to Skinwalker folklore, without the important context of it being a perversion of goodly Navajo spirituality. Buffy and Giles crash the party. Buffy is armed with a silver knife, a werewolf killing method, applied inappropriately to skinwalkers, who traditionally can be killed with standard extreme violence. And Giles carries a dog whistle to attract the coyotes away from Buffy. Kinda silly. Despite the ritual being interrupted, the skinwalkers succeed at resurrecting Spurs Hardaway into a walking dead skinwalker. This is derivative of European folklore, but kind of forgivable because Buffy killing the Walking Dead is what the show is all about. Undead Spurs then transforms into a bear, horrifying Willow, and then Buffy stabs him, and he dies.
Big overture. Little show.
With their leader dead, the skinwalkers are freed from their obligation to be skinwalkers, so they burn their pelts and vanish into the night. Buffy catches one last glimpse of Hopscotch the Coyote, who meets her eye in farewell, and then leaves. Hopscotch serves as a figure analogous to Shane from the titular 1953 Western film. After helping to make Sunnydale safe from skinwalker violence, he must then leave because he embodies skinwalker violence himself. He has to effectively kill himself as a human, become an animal, and remove himself from the world of humanity forever. It's so romantic that you almost forget that this is the guy who threatened to cut Buffy's tongue out. Good riddance, Hopscotch. Coyote Moon is a fun little adventure that takes the plot of Buffy to a new level of adult content, but it's also very flawed. It tried to do too much with the Wolfman homage, the skinwalkers, the creepy carnival, and the Western, all the while making it feel like a Buffy story. A lot of the Western theme feels really tacked on, with explicit comparisons to Westerns, instead of evoking the feel of a Western and letting the reader make the connection. Buffy meets the Wolfman is a fun idea, Buffy vs. Skinwalkers is a fun idea, as well as Buffy vs. a creepy carnival, and Buffy as a Western. Heck, the show keeps putting in vampire cowboys for her to fight. But a Buffy remix of the Wolfman with Skinwalkers and a creepy carnival and being a Western is just a confused hodgepodge. The book is paced poorly, with several attempts and failures and characters acting stupid to pad it out, leading up to a rushed conclusion. On top of that, it frames the skinwalker threat wrong with its whitewashing, and ends up problematically culturally appropriative. However, one good point in its handling of Native Americans is that it portrays colonialism as something bad, perpetrated by evil cowboys. That small aspect makes it better than the show itself, with Season 4, Episode 8 Pangs functioning as colonialist propaganda.
You won, all right? You came in and you killed them and you took their land. That's what conquering nations do.
Considering, too, that Halloween Rain had a part with a Native American student at Sunnydale High, telling off a white student wearing a racist costume, it's starting to look like the books being free of Joss's creative input might actually make it a haven for progressive thought that can counter his blind spots. It starts to look like that, until we get to the book where Buffy fights evil feminists. Next time on the Buffy Book Club is a return to the Season 1 struggle against the Master in Night of the Living rerun. Please like, share, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and send me an email if you want to commission a video review, and click the link below to support me on Patreon. Pledges of $5 or more will earn you a special thank you at the end of each video. Thank you, and please check out my related videos.